Welcome everybody to Catfish Weekly. Along with Cindy, I'm Lyle, and tonight Stacey Gaston is going to join the show. How you doing, Stacey?
Lyle, I'm doing good this afternoon.
We just you and I was talking a little bit here before we went live. You had 35 degrees down there in Alabama today, and I'm at 14. I'm complaining. You're not liking it down there either.
Well, I got up this morning. I'm out there in my shop working, and I called Joey, and I told Joey, I said, Joey didn't have enough clothes to be out here. He said, how cold is it? I said, man, it's 35 degrees down here today. He went to laughing at me, and I said, what is it? He said, it's 17 up here in Kentucky. I said, well, 35 in the South equals 17 in Kentucky. I said, we're not used to this mess.
Well, man, I tell you, I've had labs before when I duck hunted a lot that would set out on the blind and have ice hanging off of them all over, never shiver one time. I mean, they was just tough dogs. They'd go out and get them birds. We'd have to break ice for the decoys to wobble in. And that old black dog, he would sit out there and he'd bust the ice as he went to get them ducks and bring them back. But this one I got now, she's never seen them kind of days. And she goes out and takes care of her business, and she comes over. She's ready to go back in the house where it's warm. You know, she don't know what cold weather is.
I don't blame her. I don't hunt as much as I used to. As a matter of fact, I ain't hunted much in a couple of years, but I used to just hunting was something we done every day.
Mm-hmm.
And I was out hunting, and I'm sitting out there, and it's cold. And I say cold to me, you know, man, when it gets down below freezing, I'm sitting there, I'm like, what in the world am I doing? Sitting out here for 2 or 3 hours.
Yep.
And it is cold as it is after a crazy deer.
You know, I hunted not only in Missouri, but all over. We used to go to Colorado a lot and hunt. And as my boys got older, we got them interested in it, and they bow hunt and gun hunt and shoot deer and this and that. And when we moved down here, I brought everything with me, and what's 5 or 6 years? I think it's been 5 or 6, at least 5 years, and probably 6 or more since I actually deer hunted or any kind of hunted. I ain't shot a gun in
6 years,
at least 6 years. And I just, I got a place to go. I can go do it. But if that oldest boy of mine, or either one of them, would call and say, hey, I need you to take one of the boys and sit with them, then I probably would do that. But other than that, I just don't have a desire to do it. When we quit duck hunting, I quit duck hunting when I couldn't hold a gun up. After that shoulder surgery for years, I couldn't hold the end of the gun up. So I didn't hunt ducks and got rid of most all my stuff. And I miss that the worst. It's like fishing. It's extremely addictive, and I loved it a lot. But the fishing is kind of taken over, and we can do that together, and it's just a lot more fun.
Well, you know that, and that's what I've hunted and fished all my life. My daddy was an outdoorsman, and I mean, we literally, when hunting season come in, we hunted every day.
Mm-hmm.
Every day that went by, we deer hunted, and we deer hunted during the winter time when deer season was in. We rabbit hunted, we squirrel hunted. When the springtime got here, we fished, and that's what we done. Now the last 7 or 8, I would say last 10 years probably, the land lease got so high. I made a decision. I'm gonna do one or the other, and I said I can fish year round. I can't hunt year round,
Mm-hmm.
and so I just did it. I dedicated everything to just started fishing, and that's and I started fishing, and probably 10 years ago, I just started really focusing on trying to target what I call, trophy catfish or larger catfish, and really trying to focus in on catching them. And probably one of the things that I got attention from, me and a guy by the name of Jesse Kilpatrick. He lived down here. He went to church with me, and we started fishing some, and me and him just started catching big catfish. And nobody believed we was catching these fish, because where I'm from, everybody, they got trot lines, they jug, they hoop net, and we was coming back telling, man, we catching, and that was before I started practicing catch and release. We caught them and we released them all right into the to the cooler.
Yeah. And
we was bringing everything back, and nobody believed that we was catching these fish on rod and reel. So we started videoing it. That's when we figured out we could use our phone and video what we was doing. And so we started doing that and just showing it to people. And I think that somewhere along that time, Facebook come out, and I'm like, hey, we're going to post these things to Facebook. And we started posting them and showing people, hey, we catching these fish on rod and reel. And what we tried to do from there was I really started trying to teach people, hey, you can catch these fish on a rod and reel. You just got to know where to go to, use the correct bait, how to target them. And that's what I've spent the last couple of years doing. And that's my passion, Lyle, is, I like to go out and fish. I spent a lot of time and a lot of years. I really didn't have a whole lot of help of somebody teaching me where to go and what to do. There was a couple of guys around here that fish with rod and reels, but about everything, man, I just learned on my own. And now I'm trying to share that so people don't have to go through all that learning curve, because it can be frustrating. And be able to teach them, hey, man, you can do this. This is what you need to do. This is what you need to look for. So many people are out there wanting to hide all these secrets. And I understand. I understand where they at. They tournament fishing, and maybe that may be why I don't do much of it. I don't want to get to a place where I feel like I got to hide my information from future anglers so they can be able to enjoy this sport.
Well, that's exactly what this show was about when we started. It was sharing information and helping people, and Paul and Chris and Chuck and I, we done that for a long time. And then when Doc come in the show, Doc has always been that guy to share information with everybody. I remember when he was sharing information and telling people stuff 20 years ago or more. And he always would just, you ask him a question, he give you an honest answer. If you didn't like it or you didn't think he was right about it, you just moseyed along and you went on. But now with all this social media stuff, if somebody don't like what you say, they're just going to tell the whole wide world that you're lying or some crap like that, and just see what they can stir the pot. But that's the way you get that's how you get kids and new people in the sport all the time, is you share your information with them and show them how to catch more and bigger fish or eater fish. If they just want to, if they all they want to do is go out and catch eating fish, that's I've had times when we was in tournaments where we got overs and couldn't buy an underfish, couldn't buy one. But
hey, Dieter, I was working one time and showed up, and I had this necklace on the chain, and a guy told me I had a Mr. T starter kit on.
Oh, man.
I don't know who
hey, you need to remember that now. This is my Mr. T starter kit, baby.
You might not be old enough to remember who Mr. T is. I see Dustin Falls in the chat tonight. Dustin, I got to tell you, I walked outside a while ago and I looked in a boat and I could see that D&T custom live well in there. And it's so cold here that there was a frozen tear coming out the side of it. I felt sorry for it, but it's got a cover over top of it where it can't get none of the bad weather. But it was sad that it is sitting in there crying because we couldn't go fishing. I think most of the water around here is getting kind of hard.
And Lyle, I want to take this moment here because I know I see a lot of people in chat and I ain't got a chance to say anything. I want to thank y'all for tuning in with us and listening tonight. And just want to say hi to everybody and thank y'all so much. I have seen your comments and just appreciate y'all being a part of this program.
Stacey, we've had you on before. We had a pretty good time the last time we had you on here. And there's no telling what you and I is liable to talk about before this show's over.
Well, one thing, Lyle, and this is the way I live my life. I don't have but one of them to live. One. And I've got to make the most out of it. And I believe in having a good time. If you own my boat, we may not catch a fish, but I can bet you this. We're going to have fun one way or the other.
Yep. That's right. We have, Cindy and I have actually donated days on the water with us fishing. And we're not guides. We don't profess to be guides. We don't even tell you you're going to catch a fish, but we always have a good time. And some of them guys spent some pretty good money at different times to go out with us and drove up from states far away. And we enjoyed doing it. And we had a good time. And we was lucky that they caught some fish, but it's about having a good time and sharing knowledge with other people. My grandkids now are just coming to the age to where when they start liking fishing, then it'll be fun to teach them the things that they don't know because they've been a little bit too young, but they're old enough to go now.
Hey, Lyle, let me get it right here to this comment. Okay. It's Team Wampus Cat.
Uh-huh.
Hey, Team Wampus Cat, them are pollywogs, baby. I grew up down here fishing on Persimmon Creek. I mean, it's a creek right below the house. Me and my brother, we couldn't have been no more than 12, 13 years old. We'd take a 2-man tent and go down there and set poles on the bank, and we would catch them bull. I didn't know what a bullhead was. We called them pollywogs. And we would catch them things, and my dad was up in Memphis with us, and he told Joey as we went out, he said, "Don't y'all come back with none of them pollywogs in that live well." Said, "I'm looking for some big blues."
Oh man. So the mudcats, you call them pollywogs, is that right?
We call them pollywogs.
Did you ever use them for bait?
Listen, never used them for. I'm gonna tell you this right here. Now I live down in the South, and you can tell that from the way I talk. But we live out in the country, man. And you know, I didn't even know that there was such thing as a trash fish. So I got on up and started fishing with other guys, and they said, "We don't keep that. That's a trash fish." I didn't say anything because I was a little bit embarrassed. I'm like, "Well, we eat them things all our life." We would catch bullheads off of the creek, bring them to the house, clean them up, and eat them.
You know, Stacey, we had the county assessor was a friend of my dad's, and he was an older gentleman. After my dad passed away, I'd go out to his house, and he had a pond behind his house that his cows drank out of, and it was full of bullheads. And they was, I can't get to where I can see this camera, but, you know, they was 10, 12, some of them 12, 13 inches long. Most of them was smaller than that. And I'd go out there and catch them babies, and I take them home and eat them. We ate, I can't tell you how many, hundreds of them. And you go out there the next day, you catch all you want again because there was nothing in there but them things to eat. And the cows get in there and mess around. Sometimes the cows come up there and run you off. I wasn't very big, but I didn't know that wasn't the same as any other catfish when I was that age. You know,
and listen, we didn't. My daddy, if we caught it or killed it, we eat it.
That's right.
And that was the way it was. I've eaten everything from coons. I ain't never eat a possum, but I tell you, somebody else that cook it up and eat it, I'll try it. But we eat everything.
I haven't.
And so I didn't even know there was no difference of trash fish. You know, I'm like, we just eat it all.
I've ate everything from Asian carp and common carp and bullheads and catfish and buffalo bass. I'm not a fan of eating bass. Just about anything else I'd rather have. Them things taste like a piece of old pine wood that you throw it on a fire. I mean, they really ain't fit to eat. So no wonder they try to make a sport out of them. But when I grew up, we was close enough to the river that they'd have all you could eat meals on Fridays and Saturday nights at restaurants. And sometimes it'd be catfish and sometimes it'd be common carp. And, you know, if they're fixed right and they're scored correctly where you don't have all the bones in them, they're not bad. Buffalo was another thing that was real. But, you know, we're talking about 1970s, 1980s. And a lot of these guys that's watching the show tonight wasn't even born yet. But, you know, all you could eat for for $3.95, you know, that's a heck of a deal. Your meal, your drinks, and I did see Cindy's brother. I've seen him make him quit a couple times because he's eating too much. But you know, he's a big guy.
Yeah. Well, one thing I'm gonna talk a little bit about catfishing, if you don't mind, here, Doc. I mean, Lyle.
That's all right.
You know that last year, and we just getting started in 2020, and Joey said something to me the other day. He says maybe 2020 will be as good to me as 2019, and I sure hope it is.
Oh, heck yeah.
We put some kind of big fish in the boat. This is probably one of the best times fishing that catching big fish that the year that I've ever had, and it was awesome this year, man. So I hope 2020 is as good to me as 2019 is.
Well, you know, Stacey, it will be. They're predicting flooding in my area like they did last year. They predicted it through the winter, and sure enough, it held true. They're predicting it again for this year, which means the lakes and stuff will all be high. You did have a great year a great year fishing last year, and a lot of other guys did too. And I fully anticipate it to be the same this year. And I think a lot of guys that fish in my area that fish the Missouri and the Mississippi River, if you think back, every time we have these massive floods like that, fish get moved around in places that they wasn't before, and everybody will have a great year unless it's flooded where you can't get on those waters. And then next year, look out, because it'll be on then, and they'll be big.
You know, one of the things I've seen, and you know, I don't know if there's any scientific proof to this, but one of the things that I've noticed over my years of fishing, that every time that we had floods, it was always better. I mean, we was brim fishing, we was crappie fishing, we was catfishing, and I always thought that I started connecting the two together. I said, this flooded water allows them fish to get out in the woods and just eat a little bit of everything. I don't know if that's what they do or not, but I've always noticed floods always, when you have a flood season, it always produces a good quality and healthy fish.
That's
Your
right.
fish will be bigger and fatter and everything.
Yep, they move around a lot, and I just think that it'll be great for fishing, and as long as the flooding and stuff don't get too bad like it did this year. A lot of our area was underwater where we couldn't fish pretty much all summer. You know, Mississippi and the Missouri rivers and everything that flowed into them was a mess. But, you know, the lakes was extremely high. All the boat ramps was underwater. There was a select few places you could even go. And the trash on the water going there. We had current at Lake the Ozark. I bumped Lake of the Ozarks this year. And guys say, "Oh, that's bull." Well, we did. We bumped it because they had current in the river channel where you could do it. And
yes, sir.
It's just the way it is. And we caught some fish and had a good time. But we'll see what it is next year. But I think that 2020 is going to lay out to be a great year. I think a lot of good fish will be caught, and I think we're going to bring a lot of new people into the sport this year.
We're going to sure try to do our best to catch some big ones. If it's anything, if we can do anything about it, we're going to be after them.
Oh yeah,
I told my wife. I told Dawn the other day. I said, "Honey," and I've got an extremely good wife, and I got a job that I can get some time off and get all the state holidays, so that's a big benefit to me. But I told her, I says, "Honey, between now and April, every chance I get, I says, I am going to be on the water looking for that monster." I said, "So just get prepared for it." I said, "You either hop in the boat or just catch me when I get back home, but I'm looking for that monster. We're looking for another triple digit was what we're looking for. I might not ever catch another one, but I'm going to be looking for him."
There you go.
And, Lyle, and most people don't even know this, and I had never shared this story, But the night that I caught the one that weighed 103, I was out there fishing. I was waiting for Joey to come and meet up with me. And when we got there, I got there about dark, and so I'm gonna go on out and go to fishing. I said, Joey, when you come in, just call me. I'll come and pick you up or something like that. And I went out there and went to fishing, and I caught one that night. I think he weighed 66 pounds. And I done caught him and put him in a boat, weighed him, and turned him back loose. I didn't video that. And I got all my stuff set up, and I was going to video. And I had this rod slammed down, and I reached and grabbed it. And, man, it was a big fish. And I'm sitting there, and I'm fighting with this fish. And I look over to my left, and, man, that pink pole of mine is doubled down. I mean, it is ripping. And I'm like, I've always had the mindset, if I know that the one I got in my hand's a big one, if I know he's a big one, I don't fool with the other one by myself. I'm just like, let him do what he's going to do, but I know the one I got in my hand's a big one. And so I just go to fighting this one, and I get him so close to the boat. He's probably within, I would say, 10 feet of the back of the boat. I could see him, but I couldn't move him. I was pulling everything I had. He's on top of the water, and there was some current there, and I cannot move this fish. And I'm like, man, he's hung on something. This fish is hung on something. And I could look at him, and I'm telling you, Lyle, from what I could see, I would say he weighed 80+ pounds.
Nice.
And I'm pulling with everything I got. And I'm like, I'm gonna break my line. I can't move him. And he's just laying there. When he finally goes to swimming a little bit, and when he was there, I could feel something else pulling as I'm trying to pull him, but he's just laying there, just on top of the water. You know how them old big ones to do with the mouth open. And he finally went down. I had the net, fixing the netting, and my line broke it right loose at the hook. I'm disgusted. I'm telling you, my heart dropped. I'm like, my Lord, that was an 80+ pound catfish looked like. When I done that, and I turn around, there was a video out there, and I was in disgust, and I sit down, and I told the guy, I said, I just lost him. Well, that pole that had went down previously was rolled back over. That thing was tangled up with this one. And this, the one I landed, was 103, and I promise you, the one I had on the boat was 80+. I said, no wonder I couldn't move him. I had an 80+ and 103 tangled together. And if Joy would, I'm gonna blame it. If Joy would have got there earlier and been able to help me dip it, we'd have got both of them.
Well, you know what? That's what I'd do is I'd blame it on Joey. I really would.
Well, you gotta blame it on somebody.
That's exactly right. He's not here to defend himself, and you just
he doesn't tune in. He doesn't. I thought he was out. I wouldn't have said that. I thought he went in the chat.
You said he was traveling 130 miles an hour to get there.
Oh man, oh Joey's a good guy. Hey, Stacey, what do you say we give something away?
Go ahead.
I've got some Hooker's Terminal Tackle Mad Catter hooks. I think they're 10 odds. Let me look here. 10 odds. We're going to give them away. I've got everybody loaded up. Pick me out a number between 1 and 5.
Go 2.
1, 2. And the winner is Swamp Diver Outdoors. Congratulations. After the show, send me your shipping address, and we will get those right out to you. Go ahead and get that back up for the next time around. That way I don't have to search for it. All right. Congratulations, and thanks to Hooker's Terminal Tackle for everything they do for us. We appreciate it. Now, we're back.
Well, listen, while I'm here, can I tell one more story?
Well, sure.
Me and Joey was up there fishing. We had a slow day. Is Joey still tuned in with me?
He was a minute ago.
I think he's still here because he's gonna laugh about this. We hadn't hardly caught nothing but a couple of little ones, but we had caught a few fish, and I'm probably the world's worst. You know, you catch a couple fish and you don't check your leader line and all that, and we was up there and we was dragging some baits, and it was a little bit slow, and I had one to slam it. I'm telling you, buddy, you know how one of them big ones they just slam it. And I looked back there and told Joey, I got him. And I reached and set the hook. And I thought to myself, I said, it come off. And I went to reeling it in, I'm reeling my rod in. I said, Joey, I missed him. Well, when I got it in, my leader line was broke. I was a little embarrassed. I didn't want to show him, I flipped it around like I didn't know what was. He said, what's wrong? I ain't nothing wrong. I said, Joey, my leader line broke. He said, what you going to do about it? I said, the next time I come back, I'm going to have something better than this. And so when I went home that afternoon, he had called me. He said, where you at? I'm at Bass Pro Shop. He said, what you doing there? I said, I'm going from 50-pound leader line to 80.
Wow.
And so every time we go up through there now, I said, Joe, we got to stop at this hole. I said, there's a fish here that's got a mad catter in him, and I want my hook back.
Oh, man. That's a good one. Joey and you and Joey have become great friends. And
yes, we have.
I think it started out with a fishing trip to Wheeler or something. I mean, I know that you guys have got really tight here the last few years, and I think where was we? That we all was together the last time, sitting on the back of the pickup out there at the parking lot. Memphis last year, and we had a great time down there.
It was probably, I don't know how long me and Joey has really got to know each other. I started seeing him on Facebook some, and Dustin Fall had called me and talked to me some, and I was headed to Wheeler, and I fish a lot by myself. I've carried people before off fishing. Fishing is something that when I go, I'm really serious about it. I mean, I'm going to fish hard, and most people is just not prepared to fish the way I fish. I mean, you can ask Joey. I'm going to fish from daylight. I may come off the water about 3 o'clock, go get me a bite to eat, take a shower, lay down for an hour, and I'm like at dark. We fix to be back at it, and we're going to fish to 12, 1 o'clock. And we're going to repeat it again the next day. I says, I'm after I come here to fish. And so I don't usually, I've had people come with me, and after a couple of hours, they don't like it. So I'm being real sort of been picky about that. And I'm headed to fishing, and I'm coming up. I'm going to Wheeler. And I think Dustin calls me or something. He says, you ought to call Joey and see if he wants to go fishing with you. I'm like, man, I don't even, I seen Joey on Facebook, but never talked to him. And I think that I give him a call, and he said, I'll meet you there. And me and him just connected, and, we fish really good together. I love fishing with him, and he likes it like I do. When we fish for 2 or 3 days, I'm telling you, we have been at it hard and heavy.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are live a lot. You're catching a lot of fish. I know Joey for several years. He done a lot of work for Aaron Wheatley down at Monsters on the Ohio over the years. He was always there helping Aaron out. Of course, we done live shows out of Bass and More up until last year, every year that we went down there, and Joey was always there, and he would help anybody do anything at any time. And he might play a game of pitch if there was one going. I seen him sit there at that table and do that for hours. But he's always been a really good guy and always had a lot of fun. There's the doctor in the house. Hey, Doc, how you doing? Talked to Doc this morning. He's wanting to know if it was cold here, and it was cold here. It was cold there. It's cold in the South too.
Well, we was on Wheeler fishing, and Doc was up there. This was crazy, Doc had called me. I mean, Doc was in them monsters. He was catching monsters like you catch brim off a brim bed. And he done called me, and Joey said, where y'all at? And I said, we down here by the dam, we fishing. I said, where you at? And he said, I'm by the dam. When I'm looking for him, and he called, he said, y'all got to get over here and help me. And I just got a big one in the boat. Well, I'm looking, Wilson Lake's pretty big, and I'm looking, I said, I don't see him. I don't know which dams he's talking about. Is he talking about the Wheeler Dam or the Wilson Dam? So me and Joey jumped, we cranked that boat up, and we run 12 miles all the way to the Wheeler Dam. And I'm looking, I called Doc back. I said, Doc, we can't find you. He said, I'm down here by the Wilson Dam. I said, well, just left them. We spun around and went back. And I'm telling you, he had 170-something pounds down there in the boat with him that afternoon.
I used to fish by myself a lot. Cindy, the kids don't want me doing it anymore. I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. But I'm going to tell you, it's pretty tough getting a fish that size in the boat by yourself. It really is. And you don't have to be old and beat up. If you're in pretty good shape, that's still a lot of fish to get in a boat by yourself.
I'm going to tell you what's tough. If there's any kind of current flowing and you by yourself and you pick your pole up, and when you lean over to go to dip him, that current pushes him back.
Yeah.
And you pick him up and you lean over to dip him, and that current pushes him back.
Yep.
I'm like, oh, man, I ain't going to never get him in the net.
Man, it is tough. It's so much easier to fish with somebody in the boat with you, and the younger they are, the better it works. But, I used to dearly love night fishing, and we had a couple of bad experiences at night. And I'm not sure I would go out with the right person and fish at night, but I'll never do another tournament at night. Not just Cindy and I, but we've had all kinds of crap happen in night tournaments. And some of the best fun and the best fish we ever caught was on the Mississippi River below some of them dams, and it's all lit up across there. It's just bright lit up, and you can hear the guys working and the traffic and stuff going on. Usually 2-3 o'clock in the morning, there's nobody down there but you and the fish, and nice and quiet. All the bugs go to the lights on the dam, so you're really not fighting them. So that's some of the best memories that we got. But
and also with me fishing, we fish day and night, but I fish at nighttime different than I do the day. I like to anchor fish at night. I don't like to do a lot of moving.
Yeah, I do too.
And I'm like, we're going to go to these 3 spots. We're going to stop. We're going to anchor, and we're going to fish. I'm not going to be running all over this lake. Not going to be worried about another boat running up on another boat or nothing like that. And like you said, you can get around the dam, and you do have a glow of lights from that dam. You can see what's really going on a little bit.
We was in several night tournaments down on the Mississippi River below the Alton Dam, and we would back bounce from the dam down to the confluence of the Missouri River. And you catch some great fish doing that. Cindy and I was down there. It was Keith and I guess it was. We was bouncing down through there one day, and we was trying to go slow, and Ryan Casey and his dad went right by us. They was going faster than we was, and I had a giant on. They got right beside me, and Ryan said something, and when he did, that fish turned loose, and I thought, well, how did you do that? You just talked him out of getting off my hook. And Ryan laughed about it, but that was years ago. But that's a long stretch down there to bump, but we stayed right in the middle, and we caught fish all night down through there bumping. But, those times like that on water you're familiar with is one thing, but a lot of these places we go to anymore, we're not familiar with that water. And I'm not sure I'd get out there and do it again if I was anchored and planned on being there all night. That's one thing, but I'm not sure I'd be wanting to do a lot of running around unless I was with somebody that's real familiar with it.
And I'm going to tell you, even at nighttime, I'm looking really, when I go out there fishing at night, I've tried to spot during the daytime a good place where I think a big one's at. I will literally, if I think there's some big fish there, I will anchor down, set my poles up. I got a little old thing I just lay that in the bottom of my boat and lay there and said, I'm just going to wait him out. But I don't like moving a whole lot. I'm looking for one bite, really, and I'm looking for a big fish.
That's exactly right. Swamp diver, you don't have to worry about it. I'm not going to tell anybody anything more than that about the St. Louis area. One of my favorite places to fish. There's some great fish to be caught down there. But like I say, I'm not really big on them night tournaments anymore. But we have had a lot of fun in them. But we've had some we've had some rough nights too, but that one night I caught a really good flathead down there. The next night, Cindy and I decided we was going to go back, and we was waiting till 10, 11 o'clock at night. Well, anywhere from dark till later because it was so hot that year. And I went to the same spot. I caught that flathead the night before. My brother and his wife were sitting in that spot the next night. And he caught a 65-pound blue in there after I caught that big old flathead. So it was a good spot. And he called me up, and he didn't have scales, didn't have a camera, nothing. I said, "Boy, what are you doing?" And he said, "I got a big old fish." He said, "I need some help." And I run up there where he was at and took a picture of his fish and waited for him. It was just a little over 65 pounds. So 2 nights in a row, that was a great place to fish.
I was glad. I done forgot. One of that boy's name was Josh Boyer, Boyer, I think was his name, when I caught the 103. And I couldn't hardly get the fish up, you know. And I seen them when they passed me going back to the landing. And I went over there to them, and I said, "Guys, I need y'all to help me weigh this fish." And they said, "Is he very big?" I said, "Well, I think he's pretty good size. You know, I hate to try to say, hey, he's a monster and not be what I think he is." And I'm like, "I think he's pretty good size." And I opened that live well up, and them boys, oh my gosh. And I won't never forget when he put him up, me and the other guy was holding, holding each side of the dip net. We put him on the dip net thing and held the pole up. And had him in the center of it, and he was reading it. And when he said 105, 104, when he said 10, I went hysterical.
I don't think
he said 105, 104, 103. I said, "Just call it 103. Yeah. Who cares after you get over 100?
Right. I don't know what it is about the 100-pound mark, but everybody wants to make a 100-pound fish, and it is that.
Hey, let me tell you this, Lyle. Let me tell you this. Oh yeah, everybody wants to get that. Because just about everybody that calls me and they say, "Will you carry me out fishing? I want to catch a 100-pounder." I'm like, "Yeah, we just do it all the time." I said, "You know how hard."
If it was that easy, everybody'd be doing them. Oh man,
oh my gosh!
I think one of the places that is missed on big fish, and I think Memphis, Tennessee is one of the great big fisheries there is on the Mississippi River. And last year there was a giant caught down there, but there's not as many of them caught down there as I think should be. I think there's a lot more of them down there. I know below Alton there several years ago there were 6 caught down there, but they're caught all up and down the Mississippi. They're caught on the Missouri River in the 100-pound range, some over, some right around there. There's a lot of them caught on Wheeler and Wilson. There's ones caught out on the James River and what's that other place out there? I can't think of the name of it.
Santee Cooper.
Well, Santee, and there's another river out there where they caught Bugs Island, yeah. But I think there's a lot more big fish than people realize, but it's hard to catch them things. They didn't get that old and that big from being ignorant. I mean, they're smart fish, or they wouldn't be that size.
You know, I compare it to that big buck. I said that buck did not get all them horns on his head.
That's right.
By being stupid.
That's right.
I said he don't come out but at certain times. And, one of the things I read, and it's changed my philosophy on them big fish. I read an article, I think it was in Fisherman, where they had done a survey of some fish, and I got the article, and every now and then I post it, but they was talking about the big fish, big catfish that they had tagged, and they said they was amazed that at the amount of movement, or the least amount of movement these big fish made. Said they'll stay in place for 2 or 3 days and not even move, go out, feed, and come back and sit there, another 2 or 3 days. And so, and that's why I say when I go out at night catfishing, if I think I know where they at, I'm like, we're gonna anchor down, and I ain't moving because I remember what their articles, and it's like them big bucks. Them big bucks don't just they move at certain times, and you got to just be there when he decides he moves.
That's right.
I mean, being in the right place too, but you got to be there.
Do you mark those big fish, or you just find big fish and fish the area they're in?
I find the fish. I find the area where they at. I look for cover. The last year when we seen these fish, it was at night, and I seen something in my. I got out there and was my side scan. There was a trough that was there. I wasn't in about 10 to 15 foot of water, and it was pretty constant, about 10, 12 foot. But there was a trough. What I call a trough looked like a little old trough coming up to there. It was about 15 foot deep. So I got at the head of it and anchored my boat down. And I'm like, we're going to anchor right here, and I'm going to sit. And there was some structure out in there. And a guy told me years ago, and I've lived by this, I fish structure, and I fish ledges, and I fish these little ditches. Any kind of little ditch or any kind of a creek bed. And they told me years ago, a guy was telling me, he said, man, these things are highways for these catfish. And it made sense to me, and I've sort of stuck with that. And if I find some structure, you find some little ledges, some little creek channels. If I'm looking for that big one, and if there's bait fish around, I'm gonna anchor down where I think they're moving at, and I'm just gonna sit there and try to wait him out.
Cool. That sounds like the way to do it. A lot of people try to mark big fish, and I have marked big fish, and I know that you have too. But a lot of times, in my mind, what you have to be doing is finding structure and hoping those big fish are in that structure.
Yeah, I've looked. I'm pretty decent with my electronics. I think in some of that structure, them big fish get down in it. You ain't gonna be. I can't see them.
Right.
I've run over it and looked in there. I think sometimes they get so hunkered down in it that maybe you can't see. Maybe if you're fishing, trying to fish by sight, you may overlook one that's laid up in there that you just can't see.
That's right.
And that's just my feelings. Some people may argue with me. Now, we have seen some fish and put up on top, and I've got a couple screenshots, and I'm like, man, that is a huge catfish. We caught one back this summer. Me and Joey put up on a log sticking out of the water. We eased by it with side scan, and it was a big one. And I actually just took the boat and backed right up to that tree, and we just dropped bait straight down. We didn't catch him that day, but we did drag some baits by that thing that day and the next day, and we caught one off of there at around 70 pounds or so. And I always wonder, I'm like, was that the one we saw? I don't know, but
yeah.
My biggest thing, I'm looking, if I'm out here dragging baits and stuff, I'm looking for schools of fish. I do look for fish, and if I can't find them, I'm gonna go try to drag somewhere else. But when I'm dragging baits, I do look for fish.
Yep.
When I'm anchoring, I don't necessarily look for fish as much as I look for structure and places that he's gonna be feeding at. And I'm gonna position my boat between this and his feeding spot, and I'm gonna try to wait him out.
Yep, I agree 100%. What do you say we give away something again, Stacey?
Go for it.
You want to pick me out another number?
Let's go number 4.
All right, I got another package of 10-aught Hooker's Terminal Tactical Mad Catters. Number 4.
That's the hook right there.
They're good ones.
That's the hook I use.
3 and 4. The winner is Big C Catfishing. After the show, if you would please just give me your Send me your shipping address. We will hook you up with these. Thank you, James R. Wood. We're just about out of those, so I think we may have one package left. We'll have to look and see. But thanks so much for watching Catfish Weekly. And James, thank you for everything you've done for us over the years. Cindy must be visiting with somebody about catching those. You know, Cindy and I fished a tournament up in Hannibal, Missouri one time, and there was a creek that went in below, actually it's below the Quincy Dam and in the Hannibal pool. And when we went in this creek, there was some structure over to the right-hand side, and a buddy of mine had went before us, and he went on up in that creek, and we just got in the mouth of it. I told Cindy, I said, there's 2 fish right there underneath that tree at the mouth of this. And we just pulled up in there, and I cast 2 lines over to that stuff, and it wasn't 5 minutes, and I caught a really nice flathead, and I throwed back in there and had the other one on, but he got off, and he didn't go back in there. But those fish, I know we marked those fish when we went in there, and how John missed them is beyond me, because he went on up in there, and we stopped right there when we seen those. Well, we also bumped up a pretty nice blue that day, and I don't know, what did we end up, second, third, fourth? Up at, it was the Quincy, but we fished the Hannibal pool. This is a long time ago. But we ended up in, you know, in the top 3 or 4, whatever it was. And if it hadn't been for bumping that blue and that one, if we'd have got that other flathead, had to have that dink to go with us, we'd have been gold. But he didn't get him to the boat. But we marked both of those fish on side scan, and in water that's not really, really deep, that side scan, I just love it. It just works out really well for stuff like that.
I love the side scan. That's been to me, that's a game changer. When I'm fishing, when I'm looking for fish, and I'm in 20-foot less water, I use my side scan. That's what I'm looking. I'm looking at that right there. You know, most people, I don't know if they understand some of the electronics, but if you just go with down your regular sonar, it shoots. And I think, from what I understand, every 10 foot, it's got a 3-foot diameter. So if you're in 20 foot of water, you're not covering but 7 or 8 foot in diameter when you do this. So that's a good time to throw your side scan on, because now you can cover a lot of area.
Yep.
Now, if I'm looking for fish in 50 foot of water, I go back to my sonar, and I go back to looking for them arches. I'm looking for and it takes a little bit of time. You know, I know different electronics is different. You know, when people are saying, what does a catfish arch look like? To me, the only way you'd be able to get confidence in that is you see these fish, start catching fish off of it, then you'll start to relate what you've seen in that picture with them arches to these fish that you're catching. And that your confidence will start to build up with that right there.
That's right. And I look for the color change in the arch, because usually when it changes and gets, on mine anyway, when it gets bright red or yellow, that's telling me there's a lot of bone in that fish, which means it's probably not something other than a catfish.
Yeah, and you know, and I look for I carried some guys out today, and they was asking me, says, is this a catfish? And I said, you know, there's some arches there, but I didn't, and I'm in mine. When you come closer to the front, you can see that hard return, and as it eases all to the back, it lightens up. And I said, I believe them to be catfish, because I see that arch and I catch fish on it.
Mm-hmm.
So that hard return on mine is red.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm looking for some red return up at this head.
That's
and
right.
for it to come back. And I said, the more red, the bigger he is.
That's exactly right. I agree 100%. That's how I do it. And now we have a lot of spoonbill, so you have to be careful with that. But this helix, if you've got it dialed in on these lakes up here and you're in them spoonbill, you can use the down imaging and it'll actually show the bill on the fish.
I was on my sonar, and this has probably been a couple of years ago, and man, it was just big arches, and I'm like, man, I'm sitting there just biting at the bit. I'm like, my Lord, look at the fish. and I anchored down. I'm like, man, we fixing to tear them up. And I sit there about 30 minutes and I ain't got a bite. And I flipped to my down imaging. I was right on top of them. And when I flipped to my down imaging, it was spoon. And you could, like you said, you can see them spoonbill. I mean, it shows it so good. Yep. There's no question that's a spoonbill. And right. So you do have to be careful. If you're just running sonar, you won't be able to tell that. But when you go to down imaging, you'll be able to see that was a spoonbill.
That's right. That's right. It takes practice to dial them things in. One of the things that I think people miss out on, Stacey, on their electronics is they'll get it set up, say in their home water, whether it be a lake or a river, and then they go someplace else. They don't go back in and make adjustments to make it as good where they're at that time as they did on their home water. And every time we go somewhere, I spend a lot of time dialing it in so I can get good imaging no matter where we're at.
I think one of the things I see over and over from anglers is they ask me, what is your settings on? And I'm like, man, don't pay no attention to what my settings is on.
Yeah.
I said, because I've got it set here on this. We was on this body of water, but when I pop on another body of water, it may be clearer, it may be muddier, and I'm gonna sit there and I'm gonna grab my sensitivity and I'm gonna grab my contrast and I'm gonna go to playing with it till I get a clear as image I can get.
That's right.
And somebody say, what was it on? I said, I don't know. I didn't look at my settings. I was looking at my picture.
It does. Yeah, it doesn't matter what the setting is if it's clear. It don't matter
if it's clear. And that's what I look for. I'm like, so every time I jump on a body of water, if I ain't getting the image I want, I think the biggest problem is a lot of people might have been like me, scared to death to touch it.
I think so.
Scared to touch this thing because thinking they're gonna get it out of whack. But the only way you're gonna be able to learn how to really run the thing is get in there and go to messing with it and changing stuff, and you're gonna see, hey, this thing right here will tune it on in.
That's right.
Once you sit here and play with it, so
I agree 100%. And if you get it messed up or you can't get it back, just set it at factory default and start all over.
And start back over again. Right. You can't mess it up.
No, that's right. But you have to learn what contrast does and what all the other things does so you can dial it in. And if you don't spend a lot of time playing with it, you'll never learn it. Like I say, I used to get mine set in. I was afraid to move it but you go out the next time. One time it'd be clear and the water would be clear. The next time you go out, it'd be muddy. Or up or down, and you can change the up or down. If the water's raised 10 foot, you can set that back so you can put it. There's lots of things that you can do on them. People does not realize, and I think playing with them makes a big difference.
I know we're getting close to the end, but one of the things that I noticed too, and I'm gonna give this guy a shout out because he was fishing with me. Noah Ishcomer. Noah's fishing with me. And we had done spotted the fish, and I usually run my unit on about 3, on the speed around 3, maybe 5. Mm-hmm. Is when I'm looking for fish. My boat's moving, but once we got turned around and we threw the trolling motor down, went to dragging, he told me, he said, reach over and turn that speed down to 1. And when we did, them images just become that much clearer because we slowed that unit down. And so if you're sitting still or not moving or moving real slow, take that unit and run it back to your speed, run it back to 1, slow it down. And you're going to be amazed at what happens to that image.
That's right.
Now, you don't want to do it like that if you're running your motor out, trolling around, just looking for fish. You want it on about what your speed of your boat is. But once you slow down and just dragging baits and the fish is there, you can pop that unit down to 1 as you're creeping over them, and I'm telling you, you can see the fish down there.
That's right. That's 100% correct. That's great information. Swamp Diver Outdoors, I do use AutoChart Live sometimes to update my stuff. That's a really good part of the program to do. Stacey, I can't thank you enough for being on the show tonight. There's some other things happening on. I don't want to stay on too late. to mess anybody else's stuff up. But thank you so much for tuning in tonight.
Yes, sir.
And being on the show. I know all the viewers appreciate it, and I sure did. And maybe I need to call up old Joey and line out some of this stuff you're telling me, make sure it's all right. Get him on here one of these days. Such a great guy, man. I really appreciate it. Stacey, if you got anybody you'd like to thank or tell anything about before we close the show out?
You know, I just want to thank the viewers for tuning in here with us, and thank y'all for putting up with me tonight. And Lyle, thank you for having me on the program. And if you don't mind, can I throw a plug in?
You can.
Y'all watch out. Me and Joey may come out with something here for long where we have a little session answering questions. So y'all keep up with us, and maybe we can maybe we'll be able to share more tips and techniques.
That'd be great, man. Best of luck to you, Stacey. Thanks, everybody, for watching. See you next Monday night on Catfish Weekly.
See y'all.